Welcome to the Rocket Launcher podcast. This is episode 13. I am your host, Supreme King, and I am joined by my co-hosts.
It's your guy, Omezis.
Yes, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing better than I was yesterday because I almost gave myself food poisoning, I think. But I'm good.
Yikes.
I'm good. I'm back. Blessed as ever can be. And we are coming off of our legendary episode last week. Anybody who did not catch last week's episode, please catch that episode right after this one or before this one. Other than that, the agenda for today, I will say we are going to talk about Gotham Knights probably first. We're going to mention what's going on with PlayStation with their new studio. I'm going to rant about Xbox for a little bit. And then we're going to talk about J. Cole being on the cover of a video game, which is kind of cool. And then I'll give you some updates on some Epic games that are coming out. And then a couple other things. So please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this out with a friend, anybody looking for a new podcast, new voices on the scene, people you had never heard before. And other than that, I guess we can get started. So the very first thing on the agenda is to talk about Gotham Knights combat for the game. And I have here that you believe, or you're saying it looks sloppy, more sloppy this time than before.
Yeah.
So why does it look sloppy?
So they showed off some more gameplay. And they had like a boss fight with Harley Quinn and Nightwing. And it looked like that scene from the Power Rangers movie where like Billy and Kimberly were just doing backflips. That's what happened. Like the fight, they're both like Nightwing's cartwheeling backwards and Harley Quinn was cartwheeling forwards. And it just seemed like this weird like acrobat battle. And then like they showed other fights where you're fighting like groups of like little like gang members and things like that. But it's like they stand still and wait for you to like attack them. Like they're not coming at you. It's like you're sitting here, you're doing all these flips and everything because they showed off Nightwing. So you're just doing these cartwheels and everything to like chain some moves together, and they're just like standing there. And there was a point where like you fight one guy, you knock him out, and then as the person's turning the camera, the big heavy is just like standing and just like looking at him, and then he hits the heavy. But it was like a good amount of seconds in between where it's like, so the enemy's not attacking you, you're attacking them. Or like when Red Hood is charging up his turn. Yeah, but like when Red Hood is like charging up his like magic like gun attack and everything, it's like you're loading it up and then you're targeting who you want to target, and it was just 4 enemies just standing there. But like it was a co-op thing, so Nightwing is still moving around fighting people in the background. So it's just they're literally just waiting for you to do something to take them out. And it doesn't seem enthralling. Like I'm still holding out hope, but that's part of me just being a DC fanboy. But like every time they show off more and more about the game, it's like I see some cool stuff and then a bunch of bad things. And they really should have just stuck with the Arkham combat. I don't see why they decided to try and do something different, because it just doesn't look good.
Now in this footage that you saw, because I actually didn't see this footage yet, did they show... Did they do the thing where after a sequence was done, they had a number or a check mark or something that appears on top of their head like before? When everybody started saying it looked like a mobile game? You remember what I was talking about?
I didn't notice it this time. I don't think so. I think they took that out.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Maybe I got to rewatch it. I think they took that out. I didn't notice it. I more was so focused on just people just like waiting to be defeated that they didn't do anything. And it was weird because it was like also because of the way the combat goes, it's like Nightwing is doing some like corkscrew backflip in between like every attack, and it's like that's just not even feasible. Like I get it, he's an acrobat, but like he's not gonna do that every single attack and everything. So it was like really weird how they're doing it. I mean, on a positive note for the co-op stuff, It's more of like a drop in whenever you want to the other person's game. So it's like your story pauses as you're helping the other person. And if you start doing missions you didn't do on yours already, and you go back to your game, when you get to that point, a message will come up and just say, hey, you already did this in someone's session. Do you want to skip it? So it's like you still get like all of the stuff from the missions and everything through the other person's gameplay, and then you don't have to replay it on yours. So you can like play the whole thing together, or just drop in and help people as you want. I like that aspect of it. That was nice. But around that, it's just, I don't know, it's just when you have a model and it's not like it's a whole new company making it. I think the developers slightly part might be different, but like the parent company over this thing
right,
did the Arkham stuff. So it's like you have the model of what to do, and then you just chose not to. And I think it's going to ruin the game, which otherwise would have been a fantastic game.
I gotta throw this slight curveball at you, man. Are you ready for this curveball? I don't know if you're ready for this, man. Is Gotham Knights setting itself up to be the next Saints Row release? Is it?
I
think it is. I kind of think it is. I think it's in that category. So.
It's a mix of, unfortunately, like Saints Row and kind of towards Marvel Avengers, where it's just like you had something great and you messed it up, and then Saints Row from like it just you didn't execute right.
Yeah, Saints Row is just like, because I kept seeing more and more footage, and the downfall of that game is crazy. But with this is some of the same stuff was addressed in Saints Row, where it was like the enemies were not like doing anything, or they're just kind of standing there. I think we even pointed out on some really early footage where some people were kind of just waiting their turn, kind of thing, instead of just attacking on all cylinders. And so, yeah, it might be in that category, because this is also one of those games that had been pushed back for a while, which same thing happened to Saints Row, and then it went quiet for a while, which the same thing happened with Saints Row. And so it's kind of in that category to me, because it's also so not. Yeah, I was just gonna say it's also not really getting the same type of hype that you would think that this game would be getting. It's not like the hype was when it was first announced, along with Suicide Squads. Now it's like it's very lukewarm. It's almost like it's just going to come out similar to Saints Row. That was the same thing. So I'm wondering if it's about to be the next game. I don't think it's going to be as bad as what Saints Row is, but I think it's teetering along, because right now Saints Row is considered the worst game of this year. It's possible it's possible Gotham Knights might be like second or third, like worst game this year.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
And it sucks because like the premise of this feels like it was partly like even like made for me. Like, to be honest, Batman's one of my like least favorite members of the Bat family. Like, he's cool. I'm a Superman guy. Like, Batman's cool. Like, I really like Red Hood. I really like Nightwing. And things like, so it's like there's a whole game where it's like you play as like the proteges. Mm-hmm. It's a game where you get to fight all the Batman villains, but like, because he does have some really good villains and everything, but it's like a whole game where I could be Red Hood the entire time, or I can switch between Red Hood, Nightwing, Batgirl, right, and Robin, and like it's everything felt like it was like great, and then it's just as I see more and more game footage is just disappointing, and it sucks because this would have been easily like I would have fought my feelings about day one stuff, and this would have easily been a day one buy, or like not like maybe everyone's, but my personal game of the year. Mm-hmm. Things like I felt like it was my game of the year when it was just announced. I was like, that's going to be the best game, like right away. And it's just as I see more and more, and then it's just like, no, it's not good. I guess DC fans are very picky. We're very like picky, but we're very open. It's like, this is what we want. And then it's just like the company will see it and just go, nah. Like it's, they always do that. Like, it's just like, it's not even like asking crazy amounts of things. It's just like, this game, Arkham Combat. And it's just, nah. And it's like, why? And they're just like, no. Which I guess ties into like the next topic and everything. So they canceled the DC fandom. So what they used to do each year, especially when
let me cut you off for a second. I'm sorry. I just want to ask a quick question.
Okay.
Just before that, with Gotham Knights, has there even been an announcement yet about like any type of collector's edition for it, or do they have a concrete release date for this yet?
It does have a concrete release date. It actually is releasing like 4 days earlier than it was originally announced.
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's
I think we
releasing
did say that. I
October
forgot.
21st.
I'm sorry. I forgot that.
Oh, no, you're good. I don't remember if there was a collector's edition.
Okay.
There was. Remember, they had that $300 one because you were asking me if I wanted to get it, and I was saying that I would have if it the game didn't start looking bad. I would have had to fight myself to not get the Gotham Knights collector's edition.
See, I'm telling you, man, I'm having brain fog. I'm having brain fog. I apologize to the audience. I'm working on it. I had bad brain fog from yesterday. I'm working on it. I'm gonna buy some fruit. I'm gonna buy some fruit, y'all, so I can get back on my game. But yeah, so DC fandom. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So every year, when the world went down, everything had to go virtual. They decided to do their own little like, here's everything that's coming out show. And like, here's how you put up our stuff and all that other good stuff. And it got canceled this year. As another Warner Bros. Spite to DC. Now they're saying it got canceled because as everything's starting to move back in person, you could just catch us at in-person events like Comic-Con and stuff, is what they're trying to say. I don't think that's the reason. The reason it got shut down is because they keep canceling everything, so now they ain't got nothing to show. Like we've already seen a lot of Black Adam, so there's not much more you can show. They've already showed the trailer for Shazam, Fury of Gods. They probably don't even have more to show. I don't think they're where they want to be, but they're not 100% confident on the Flash. Aquaman got pushed back. Even Shazam got pushed back. Aquaman got pushed back to a later date. Gotham Knights, they just showed off their thingy at Gamescom. And then I don't know what they have for Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. They keep canceling the TV shows. They canceled the Batgirl movie, which probably would have been the highest feature at this year's fandom because that would have been the next one out. Yeah. They don't know what they're doing. So they keep canceling everything and just shutting down projects. And then they're like, yeah, we're going to cancel the DC fandom. And it's like, because you ain't got nothing. And it's just the DC fans deserve better. Like, we deserve better. We just want people who care. It feels like ever since it always started, like with showing off DC stuff, there's always some execs who just don't get it and just do everything to hinder process. It was the same thing with, like, for example, Smallville, where they made a show about teenage Superman, and they were like, no suit and like no flying, because then he is Superman and everything. So they had to hold off on that, which I get it. It's
I was
fine,
waiting
whatever.
for the flying for a long time. I was waiting.
Yeah, they didn't get it. They didn't want to do that because they said then the show would be over because he's no longer Smallville. He's now Superman. But then it was like all these other guest characters that they would want to put in the series. Like I think they wanted Wonder Woman and they wanted like a Batman thing, or at least like a Bruce Wayne like mentioned, like still in his younger years and all that other stuff. Weren't allowed to do it because DC had this whole thing that if it's a character on TV, they can't also be in the movie. So like even in the Arrow show, they had a really good Deadshot, and because they were making the Suicide Squad movie, they killed off the Deadshot character.
Wow.
For the TV series because they kept thinking, oh, we don't want people confused. And it's just like no one was going to be confused. It's two different like no one connected the two. So no one was going to be confused, but they had this long-standing rule of just they cannot be on TV and in a movie. At all. So we couldn't have Batman on TV in like live action, and you couldn't have Superman just in a show, and they eventually had to like fix that, but it was just like they did it, and it was just like it's just some guy who just doesn't understand. So he's just like no, or canceling animated stuff that Warner Bros is doing because it's just like nah, people don't want to watch that, and it's like no, you don't want to watch that. People are watching it. Stop canceling. So Warner. Somebody else needs it. Warner Bros is messing up. Someone else needs DC who will actually care. They need a person in charge like their own Kevin Feige, but they can't do that because Kevin Feige gets to do what he wants for the Marvel stuff, and then it comes out good and everything's related. We had Zack Snyder, and they kept saying no. Then we had James Gunn, but it seems like they don't want to go all in on James Gunn, so then they're going to get somebody else, and it's probably going to be somebody else who doesn't care instead of like people who showed that they did care. And it's just like, again, fighting DC fans. What do DC fans want? They keep saying, restore the Snyderverse. They bullied you into releasing Snyder
That's
Cut.
how I feel about it too. Yeah.
But it's like, rather than just acknowledging the success and saying, oh, we goofed, they released a later report saying, yeah, we should have never released it and everything, because it was like, we got to be like, nah, we're not doing this, and then stick to our guns. Instead of releasing it, it's like, no, like the fans are just very forward about what they want. Just do it. Like it's guaranteed money. You just do it. Yeah. And they keep fighting it. And it's just, I don't understand why.
Yeah, they hinted at a bad Superman in a different way in Snyderverse movie. And then on top of that, like, not to really move on, but like also Suicide Squad, the game, he's supposed to be bad. He assassinated a person in that game, right? In the trailer of the game, the main trailer. And so
they're doing the mind control.
Yeah, the audience is going to be conditioned to an extent for a bad Superman. And then there's also, a side note, a movie out there called Brightburn, which I highly recommend people to go see Brightburn. Go find Brightburn somewhere, which is like alternate universe kid Superman, basically being Dennis to the Menace to the extreme. So like the idea of those type of characters exists, and I guess I'll ask you too, because you would have more information on this than I would. Like, has there been any more updates on Suicide Squad the game?
Nope.
Nothing.
We know that it's going to be gun stuff. And there was a boss fight against like the Flash that happened like months ago that they like hinted at, but then nothing since. They've been extra quiet.
Well, I guess real quick, speaking of the Flash, any more updates on that movie? Anything
All they've said so far is that Ezra Miller had a meeting with Warner Bros. Execs, and he's getting help, they're getting help, and the talks apparently went really well. So that means the movie's still coming.
The movie's still gonna go.
The talks went really well.
They're like, look, we just spent too much money, and I don't care what y'all think. We gonna make this. This is gonna come out.
Again, they spent $90 million. They spent $90 million on background and just said nah and canceled it. Right?
Yeah.
They spent who knows how much money on this Flash movie, and then Ezra out here being a menace. And at most, there's been rumor that they were like, the movie might be in trouble. It was never confirmed. They never said anything. So it's like, this movie must be real good if they're like, we got to look past this because this movie needs to happen.
But it's also like the Flash has already been established in to the public for a while now through two different versions of the Justice League movie, and then just so he's like, the Flash character is like a staple technically in the DC universe to an extent. I mean, their names are not ringing bells like the Marvel names right now, but still, like, they need every side character they can get, because like it's almost like if Batman and Superman are like the big ones, like remember the way that Marvel Universe was looking at Black Panther was supposed to be one of the side ones, where the audience is almost taking it like Black Panther was just as big as the regular ones, right? And so
also true.
They probably want that for the Flash. It's just a whole bunch of other stuff is happening. So, yeah.
It does sound like Warner Bros. Is also counting on the Blue Beetle movie.
Okay.
To be like their version, pretty much their version of Black Panther, but for a Latino crowd. They're really banking on Blue Beetle to be that movie. It's nice to see Blue Beetle get some shine. That's it. Like, I think it's a cool character that always kind of like, he's there and then he's not. He disappears and it's just no one really knows what to do with him. But it sounds like they're really planning out. Like, it's a really good premise. I don't know if you know Blue Beetle. Basically, a little alien, like, robo-bug. Yeah, a little alien robo-bug attaches to his, like, spine. Okay. And it could talk to him. He could hear it, like, telepathically. But it, like, creates, like, a super suit on him that he can, like, fly and, like, shoot, like, from a laser cannon and stuff like that. But, like, the bug always thinks, like, everything's a threat. So it's like if someone in school threatens him, the bug's, like, already ready to, like, load up the, like, hand cannon and blast the person. Where it's just like, no, this, like, person was just being a jerk, like, calm down. So he's, like, fighting the thing all the time while trying to be a hero. And, like, because the thing that, like, the bug came from, like, a race of, like, aliens that, like, you know, pretty much take over planets and everything. But this one got defected in, like, crashing. So it doesn't just, like, take over, but it still has that in it. Where it's, like, extra violent for no reason.
Man, that sounds like Goku's origin story in a way.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just, except it's just not as much of a silly person. But yeah, basically the same thing, exact same thing. But it'll be cool. Like, the movie should be good as long as they don't just, like, last minute be like, nah, never mind. So we'll see.
What I don't want to see is I don't want it to seem like it's disjointed, and it has, like, a big Band-Aid over it. Like, we filmed some of this here, some of this there, and they somehow just slap it together. That's the one thing.
That's what I think is happening to Aquaman.
Ugh.
I honestly think why Aquaman got pushed back, honestly, was because of Amber Heard. Like, I feel like they already said they reduced her role. Now I feel like they're just filming new stuff to make up for the lack of her being in it. Because they keep saying she was barely in it to begin with, and I'm like, I doubt that. It's supposed to be the queen of Atlantis. Like, I doubt you, like, didn't use her in it. So, therefore, they're now filming other stuff, probably trying to remove her as much as possible. I'm like, just release it. It's fine. Just release it and don't use her in the future.
Yeah, is cancel culture that strong? They trying to shield themselves from a lot. Like, man, we hear about all these little random deals and stuff and the hiding of things. It's like, yo, is it really that strong? They got a death grip on everything.
They also don't know what they're doing because it's rumored that Affleck might be back in the Aquaman movie, and that Cavill might be back as Superman and something and everything. And it's like, well, do you want to do the Snyder stuff or not? Like, pick something. Just pick a route instead of doing these weird promises and then changing your mind.
Yeah, because I remember Ben Affleck was supposed to come back, and it was like everybody was supposed to thank J-Lo, apparently, which was it sounds so goofy when I heard that. It's like, yeah, thank J-Lo for convincing him to come back to do the Batman role. I'm like, what am I reading?
Yeah.
Like, what am I reading here? But yeah, I guess to tie on to that, the game Multiverses is supposed to get a new character, and I'm adding it on because there's DC people in there. But who's the new character? Can you tell us?
Big Chungus. So the meme that came out with the fat Bugs Bunny. So Warner Bros. Just filed to trademark the use of Big Chungus in media, like all sorts of media now, and everyone believes, like, well, what's their main source of media that he would fit in? Multiverses. So they think that Big Chungus, it's nothing's been confirmed.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a rumor right now, technically.
It's a rumor. But it also seems like a weird time because it's not like they're gonna make a Big Chungus movie or something like that, and it feels like a very weird time to license the character if they're not gonna put it in multiverses. Because then it's like, well, then what are you planning? I don't know if maybe it's an alternate attire or it's its own character, but it's heavily rumored now that Big Chungus might be coming to multiverses.
Nice. Multiverses is staying. It's not falling out like the Nickelodeon one.
It is not
called Nickelodeon All Stars, right?
All Star Battle. Yeah.
Man, did that come and go? Like, so this one is it's adding on and it's staying healthy. That's good. It's
Yep. They
healthy.
just added Morty from Rick and Morty. They just added Morty, and which is nice because I thought they were going to tie Rick and Morty together like Tom and Jerry. But they gave them their own characters, I think. So because they said Rick and Morty is coming to multiverses, and then they released Morty. So that means Rick should probably get his own too. And I think the next character released is what's his name from the Gremlins. I don't remember his name, but
I don't either.
Spike or something like that.
I'll have to see a picture.
Gremlin.
But yeah.
Stripe and Gizmo are coming. So I think that's the next character that they like. The preview for the next character, it sounded like something trying to break out of a chest, and then I think you hear Gizmo's voice from one of the lines from Gremlin. So yeah.
Okay. And this game still has LeBron James in it, right? LeBron James is still in this game.
Sure has LeBron. They need to put Michael Jordan in there too from the original Space Jam, so you can do Michael Jordan versus LeBron James and settle it once and for all.
Settle it once and for all. Well, you know what? I mentioned that because speaking of a game that has Michael Jordan and LeBron James in it, NBA 2K23. You like my transition here? And so far we know that a certain somebody is going to brace the cover of this thing. That's not a full-time basketball player, but his name just so happens to be J. Cole. You might know him from Dreamville or Dreamworld. I know it's Dreamworld, one of them. One of his albums I used to listen to back in the day. But J. Cole is going to be on the cover. And from my understanding, people think the cover looks dope, but that he shouldn't be on the cover. And they kind of want the cover, but they don't want to pay for the game. I think the cover looks dope, but I can understand to an extent where he probably shouldn't be on the deluxe edition or whatever. But J. Cole is all about basketball, though. There's not like he's just being thrown on there like a certain somebody that we're going to talk about on another episode that was thrown into the Marvel Universe. But anyway, with this J. Cole does basketball stuff, though. I remember he took some time off from music at one point and played on a professional team. I wish I had my notes ready for that, because I know he played somewhere. It wasn't in the NBA, but he was playing on a team or something for a minute. It was really weird to see the pictures of this. He was in uniform and everything with the dreads and was playing basketball. And so he really is about that. Say that again. You got it?
The Patriots Basketball Club and the Basketball Africa League.
Yeah, he was playing. He was playing like for real.
And he played for Canadian Elite Basketball League.
Yeah, it was just like he was really living his life because he was doing this. I remember there was always stuff like, oh, he doesn't have a bodyguard either and stuff like that. But yeah, he's all about basketball. So it's not like they just threw him on there. So I can understand. Right. I remember the one year, because he's an artist, like they had one year was like Jay-Z like had control of the music or something. And it was like majority his music in the game. I forgot what year that was. And then I do also remember there was a year that they put Justin Bieber in the game. I don't know if you remember this. Like it was Justin Bieber and like 4 or 5 other celebrities, and they just had these like really top stats where they was like just as good as the best stars and stuff. It was like, how are they just as good? Like it didn't even make sense. But like I wonder if he's in the game too as a playable character. Like his would make sense, especially if they had his real stats from his other leagues and everything, it would make some sense. But for me, all I would say is, if you really want the cover and don't really want to play the game, I mean, when it comes to NBA and even Madden, like, the games drop down to nothing so fast. Like, you could literally wait and get the cover somehow. You know, you can get it. Yeah, or I guess you could. You could get the right click and save the picture, right? Like it's an NFT or something. But it is a dope cover. So, what do you feel about it?
I thought it was weird that they threw him on there. I always think about it where it's just like, I mean, it's different because he actually played, but it always makes me think of like where it's just like, there's some people who work like real hard in the sport only to like just not be used, right? Like I always think like when like celebrities get to headline like a boxing like match, and it's just like there's professional boxers who like dream of this, and then it's just because this other person got popular elsewhere, they get to headline now.
Yeah, they don't have like not even half the skill. They just there. But again, though, I don't know how far I can say that because J. Cole plays. He plays. That's the thing. He plays.
However, he played for what would be considered the minor leagues. I don't know if he can keep up with NBA.
But but the people who are outraged and stuff, a lot of people don't even know he played. They just look at him as the artist.
Why is a rapper on here? Yeah. But like I always like try to, because people who want to attack, if I say like, he might not be able to keep up with the actual NBA players, and you're just like, whoa, he played. It's like, keep in mind, it's like, how many high schools have a basketball team, and then only a select few of them get to play basketball in college, and only a select few of them get to make it to like the D leagues and the C leagues and the B leagues and the minor leagues, and only a few of them get to make it to the NBA. So like there's a big gap between NBA and like I play at my local gym every weekend. And J. Cole's like way higher than like what many people can do. I don't know if he's like on that level. However, I did want to point this out. The different editions for this game. Okay. You got the Devin Booker standard edition. He's the one on the cover for the $70 one, along with the WNBA, which has two people on the cover for the $70 edition. I thought you was
about to say it's only two people in the WNBA. I'm like, all right, he didn't cancel this already.
No.
I thought that's what you was about to say. Like, dang. All right.
There's two people on the cover for the WNBA,
but not in one,
and that also. But then you got the Michael Jordan edition, which costs $100. But then besides that, you got the Michael Jordan Championship edition, which costs $150. And then past that is when you get the Dreamer edition. Okay. Yeah, two Michael Jordans. Then there's the Dreamer edition with J. Cole on the cover, but that doesn't have a price yet.
Oh my gosh. It better come with a pair of Jordans if we gonna make it even more.
It might, maybe. If it's gonna be more, then it probably will come with a pair of Pumas, because that's what his company is.
I was gonna say, like, if they had like one of the collector's editions and like they'll have like a statue, but instead of a statue they just have the shoes. That would be the first.
Or might do that, or like give you the like, I guess, voucher so you can make sure you get the shoes in your size or something like that. Or
that's how like work for them. They'll just give you a statue of the shoe and call it a day.
It's like, here's a picture.
Here's a statue.
You get a little NFT of some Pumas.
Yeah. But shout out to J. Cole. I'm not mad at this. I think it's a dope cover. Yeah.
Some people were saying it's dope, but then other people were like, when they start putting people on the cover that have nothing to do with the NBA, I'm out.
Oh my gosh.
Or like, who asked for this? What does this guy have to do with sports? And it's like, well, he plays. Like, it's clearly, I don't know.
Right.
It's just.
I remember Justin Bieber's stats was in the high 90s though. He was up there. So.
Yep. Do you remember NBA Streets Volume 2? I think it was Volume 2.
Classic.
Where Nelly and all of his crew was on there. And they had the high stats too.
Yeah. I think they were called. I almost said Midwest Swang, but that was the song. It was Midwest something. It was something over
Yeah.
there. I forgot, but I remember the group. I wish somebody would tell me the name of the group, but yeah, because I remember one of them wore a mask and everything.
Lunatic.
Sweet, yeah, the
Yeah.
Lunatics. I remember
Hey,
those
Lunatic.
songs and stuff back there.
Yeah, well, Murphy Lee, because I remember Murphy Lee was a beast. I could not beat him for nothing. Like I
Yeah.
would try, and Murphy Lee would just like run circles around me. But yeah, that whole crew.
Yeah, well, anything I would just say for NBA fans, like chill out. Like this is actually a plus for you. It's not like you missing covers at this point. They gonna give you so many different versions of this. Like you could pick a different version, and before you blink, you'll have the next one anyway. So enjoy
Yep.
it. It's not gonna have to last that long, but just enjoy it for what it is. I guess moving on from that, I guess real quick we can talk about extra characters that's going into the Xenoverse game. The game that's not gonna die, but there's more characters going into the Dragon Ball Z game. If anybody remembers, when did this game officially come out? It's been a while now.
Ooh, it has been a while. Give me 1 second.
But the game is not really new. Some people have already wiped their hands with it for a while. What's the year?
2016.
2016 till now. So they're adding even more characters to it, even after they've done, Goku with the white hair. So who are the characters this time?
So now they're adding. It looks like it's just one character so far,
Oh, just one.
and it's from Dragon Ball Superhero, like the new movie. Gamma 2. So I don't want to, spoil. But if you saw the trailer, because I don't want to say what he is and all that stuff. But if
Okay.
you saw the trailer, it's the gray guy, the guy whose skin is gray.
But essentially, so
joining.
there's just one more character, and it's from a very, very newer source. It's not something that's just like they had it like for a long time. They're still making new characters for this. So
Yep.
there might not be a Xenoverse 3 in the making yet, then, or maybe they just, I don't know, they got extra assets.
Here. So here's my thing
Yeah.
about that. I've always felt like for certain games, like something like this, I'm not mad at it.
Okay.
Only because I remember the old days where they had they would always come in threes, like when you had Tenkaichi or Budokai or any of those, Raging Blast. But they would always come in threes, where the first one would go to the Cell Saga and then stop. The second one would go to the Buu Saga and then stop. The third one would go to the GT Saga and then stop. And then they go under a new name and do that over and over. They would consistently do that.
Yeah.
Whereas now they released Xenoverse, which had its story, and then Xenoverse 2 continued. Your character from the first one is like the hero of the city, but now you're also trying to save some stuff post game. And then they just add things to it instead of making you do it all again and releasing a new $70 third version, which just has the same stuff in it. They're just like, here's the next character. Because all that would have been different, really, between Xenoverse 2 and Xenoverse 3 would have been about 10 characters. And rather than releasing a whole new game for just 10 characters, they're like, here's the 10 characters.
My only other thing is just
Hey,
the next one would be considered the next gen game, so that I would imagine there would be like the frame rate would increase if you're playing this on console, and then the whole ray tracing being in the game. So that would be the
true. I
only
just meant
difference.
they might not have, maybe they don't have a story yet for it, right? Because like the Xenoverse premise is supposed to be you inserting yourself in Dragon Ball Z stories to try and make sure things go the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So they might not have a story of another time traveler messing things up yet.
Yeah, they was making up stuff
they
or
don't
just
do
kind
that
of
again.
changing the
Yeah.
reality a little bit.
Which I didn't mind. I've played too many games where, I've played through the Dragon Ball Z story. I've watched it. Like, it kind of like I was playing Kakarot and I stopped because it was just like, well, yeah, I just did this in Xenoverse kinda. Like I've seen the story too many times, so I needed a break before going back through it. But I forgot the point I was trying to make. Oh, but like with Xenoverse, I like the idea that like you weren't directly just playing the same saga. Like you're not fighting Raditz again as Goku and then holding him there as Piccolo while you're waiting for Piccolo to charge up the attack. They let you be somebody else now, like from like an outside looking in. It was a nice twist, and I don't know what they would do for the third one. Maybe they need more Dragon Ball Super to come out. Maybe it'll be like making sure the Super stuff goes correctly, and they're just waiting for more of that story to come out, so it's focused there.
What's interesting about it for me is that Xenoverse, there's been a few games that's come out since, and then there's also Dragon Ball The Breakers that's supposed to come out as well. And so in the middle of them sort of working on these other things, these other products, they're still going back and doing this. So I would hope that means that they're still confident with their newer stuff that's coming out, that they can put resources to another project and it doesn't hurt something like Dragon Ball The Breakers, for example. So like when The Breakers come out, I expect this to be virtually bug free, because if it comes out with bugs, it's like, well, why were you putting resources to like this older project when you could have focused more attention on The Breakers? You know what I mean? So yeah.
And I need to correct something that said the character Gamma 2 was announced for superhero pack sets, which includes, it'll be 2 packs of new playable characters. And the first pack comes with Gamma 2 along with 2 unannounced characters. And then the second pack comes out sometime next year. So this one's supposed to come out in the fall. The second pack comes out sometime next year with probably 3 more playable characters.
So they're confirming that they are going all in with this one as opposed to making a new one, period. They're kind of confirming that.
These would have been the characters that debut in the next one. So
yeah. And they would have gotten away with it too, because I remember back in the day, like if there was a new character, like they built a whole Dragon Ball Z game, I think it was Raging Blast, based on what if characters where they have Vegeta as a Super Saiyan 3, and it was like a Super Saiyan 3 Broly, if I remember correctly.
Dude, I loved that one because they also had Cell Absorbed Krillin. Was that game? They had these like what if stories where Cell absorbed Krillin by accident. So he was like little and orange, or Goku used the earrings with Hercule and they fused together. That was one of my favorites. I remember that one. 'Cause also they had Yamcha and Tien fused into one, Tiencha. And then also if you're using the fusion dance and you hit the wrong buttons, because it was like a quick time event where you had to hit a series of buttons, and if you hit the wrong one, you'll mess up. So like Gotenks would turn into the fat Gotenks if you hit the wrong button, and Yamcha and Tien would turn into like the skinny old one if you hit the wrong one, and you're stuck in that form for a while. The jungle's cool.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see. So I'm really expecting their new game, even though I'm not that much interested in Dragon Ball The Breakers. It looked like a meme game. It looked like something you play real quick, but I don't think it would last as long as some of the other ones. But I'm just saying, I hope that their stuff going out will be relatively bug free. It will probably still have some stuff here and there, some hiccups, but it shouldn't be as bad as some of the other games we've seen. Because if it is, what are you doing? You're putting so many resources into other stuff. Because even Dragon Ball FighterZ is starting to be considered old, right? And that came out after Xenoverse. And then they had a whole Dragon Ball Kakarot game that's now in the category of being considered old. And it's like...
Yep.
This game predates all of that, so hey, if they got the resources, that's cool. I'm just saying, as long as it's not hindering their new stuff, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all that matters to me.
I agree.
But I guess we can move on from that. And I just wanted to mention real quick because we're going to actually move a slightly faster than last week. So this is technically our new halfway point for this week, 15 minutes earlier, because I'm trying to aim for about an hour and a half for this episode that I will explain at the end why. But if this is going to be the halfway point, I do want to mention, because I usually mention free games towards the halfway point, but first I'm going to talk about there being an announcement from the development at 2K that they're going to be making a Mafia 4. So that's just a quick announcement to expect a Mafia 4 in the near future. And to go along with that announcement, on Steam, so you have to have a Steam account for PC. Even if you don't have a credit card or a PC yet, you can still create an account to claim this game and future games that's going to come out. But the original Mafia that came out all the way back in 2002 is given away free on Steam. It probably looks like a potato, but that's okay. It's free, 100% free, and you don't have to spend no money on it. So go claim that while you can. I've already claimed it. I think it is still free as of this recording. I know it was a limited time on there. If not, it's a 2002 game. You probably can emulate it if you can't buy it officially. But if it's free on Steam right now, it probably should be cheap on Steam too if you missed it. Like, what could they possibly charge you for this? Like, so it's a 2002 game. But if we jump from Steam to Epic Games, some of the same names I said before, because they mentioned a lot of things in bulk, which they don't usually do. So some of the names I'm going to go over again. Knockout City is still free right now until September 8th. And then Shadow of the Tomb Raider, this is still the definitive edition, so that's the complete version. That is also free right now until September 8th. And then the last game was Submerged Hidden Depths. That is still free right now until September 8th. And then the two games that I got that's supposed to go just past that. One of them is called Realm Royal Reforged Epic Launch Bundle. And so I think that's a pack for a free-to-play game. I'm not sure, but Realm Royal Reforged, that is going to be the free game or pack. I think it's a pack though. You guys can double check. But that's from September 8th to September 15th. And then this game also, I want to mention, this was going to be kind of funny. I'll have a quick story time with this. The next game that's also free is called 100 Days Wine Making Simulator. And,
yeah.
that is from September 8th to September 15th. But this one might get downloaded almost immediately because I remember a time frame where I was watching a lot of videos on how to make wine at home. Like, not even
Really?
like they called it prison wine, and some of them called it. That was funny. This is one video I saw where they were calling it panty dropper wine, which is hilarious. But the whole part of it, like I could really explain it because this was like back in 2016. Like I started working this one job where I was in an office and I had time to like have YouTube open, and this was long before I even thought about even being on YouTube. And on the screens, I used to have these videos, and these were like 40 something minute tutorials. I used to just watch them on how to make your own wine and the process in it. And you would have to get these like 5-gallon tanks basically. And even after you do that, like you would start off with 5 gallons, but you would filter through this over some time. And it really would be something like 100 days. A little bit longer than that. And the whole idea was to get this sort of tank and you fill it up with the wine that you want. So it will most likely start off as water, a ridiculous amount of sugar. I mean, more sugar than anything. And then your favorite fruit, and it would be crushed. Like you would just crush it down, like if you was like at a meal or something, and you were just stepping on 1,000 grapes. Like you would crush it down, and you would put that in this 5-gallon tank, right? And you would actually have this in a dark room. It cannot have light in the room, and you have to basically put like a blanket or something over it to make sure no light hits it. And you keep it in this, and this is going to be kind of in room temperature too, and it'll start to ferment basically. And you would keep it in a room, 5 gallons of this fruit water with sugar in there for about a month. And then you'll get something that's like a siphon, almost like what you would see people like siphon gas out with. And it will siphon the liquid from one tank to a whole nother tank. So you got to have a whole separate tank that's 5 gallons or maybe smaller. And you will siphon out majority of the top, and you will leave the bottom because it will be more residue at that point. And so the top is like pure liquid. You would siphon that into a whole nother tank, seal that. I think in the middle of this, you are still going to stir in some like wine solution stuff, some chemical stuff, I guess. But you would also put that in a tank, and then you would take that tank, cover it, and leave that in a dark room with the light off for a whole nother month. And you would do this cycle 3 to 4 times for like 3 to 4 months. And then at that point, when you siphoned it again, it's at the point where it's almost less than 3 gallons of it that's left. And then that's the stuff that you filtered enough that is ready for quote unquote bottling. And then you would label it, date it, and bottle it. And you have your own labels, because there was also a whole thing about the type of cases, because wine bottles are in these really fancy nice glass like glass bottles, and sometimes they're inside of a wooden thing. And then you have your wine cellar. There was like this whole culture behind this, and these people took pride in making this. And I was so into it at one point. Like I was so into it. And so they would make their labels, and then they would like print them out, and it would be like these really nice looking labels, and they would order so many of these wine bottles, and then they would put the cork in there and everything. You have to professionally, like, not professionally, but you put the cork in there itself, and it would like push it in there a little bit to where it really seals it. And then on the wine bottle, you will have the date on there. And then afterwards, after you bottled it, it's about 3 or 4 months old. And then they will put it in their cellar for up to 2 to 5 years and go get the latest one. That's like old, or the oldest one, basically. And the newest ones, they'll put in their cellar and they won't touch it for a while. And it's like, the longer the wine gets, like the older it gets, the better it's supposed to get, because even that liquid and stuff is still sort of like, I guess, aging and everything and getting stronger and getting better and stuff. And it's like, whoa, and like this is a thing. And so some of those wine bottles that you would buy in the store and stuff, some of them, like the cheaper ones, are only like a year or two old, but the ones that are more expensive, they're like on average like 10 plus years old. And then there's some that's like really expensive, where like they were like $1,000 bottles. Like I'm talking like the price of a car, like $10,000-$20,000 bottles. And then you would find out that it was wine that was like aged for like 50 years or something crazy like that. And it was supposed to be so fancy and so unique and so, like, that's a whole thing. Because, when people go to those wine tasting events and stuff, they'll bring out some of those, like, heavy hitters, quote unquote. And I've heard from, like certain people, they'll admit, like, oh, it's actually nasty. It tastes kind of old and stuff. And then other people will be like, oh, it's an acquired taste, and it just tastes amazing. It's the most amazing thing you've ever tasted. And so it's like a whole thing. But for the average person who just wants a fruity tasting wine or something that's different from like your typical grape, you would basically go down to a fruit market and just buy a whole case of some type of fruit, peel it, mash it, and then put it in this giant 5-gallon thing, and we'll have this in a dark area. And the jug would be strong too, because it's supposed to like, it'll start filling up with like gas and stuff at this meter at the top, and you'll see it bubble. But it would be such a strong tank that's like prepared for this that it wouldn't really burst. And you have a certain limit that you put it in there with and everything, and it'll stay in there for a whole month. And then you go through that process, and it's a long process. But I was so into it, and so like to hear them, so for this like story to just like completely derail from gaming, like to go back into gaming is like, okay, this is like a game that I'm assuming has something similar to it, and so you get to at least simulate that. So I'm very interested in that a little bit, because I was watching that for a good amount of time in 2016. So yeah,
I was about to ask if you already know the full process, what you need the game for, but I see you just want to practice it. That's fine.
Also, I have like no room for 2 5-gallon tanks. I would have did the smaller version, which was the quote unquote prison wine kind. And so like I saw that one is basically, you go get yourself like one of those is it called Ocean Ray or Ocean Spray? One of those cranberry juices, basically. You go get a cranberry juice.
Why would it be Ocean Ray?
I forgot what it was called. Spray. It's Ocean Spray. But you, like, if you did the prison version, you would go get that, and then you would put that in a whole nother thing with a whole bunch of sugar, and you would probably check that weekly because you didn't have a 5-gallon thing. You just had this little glass, like a gallon glass thing that you poured this liter thing into with sugar, and then eventually that turns to wine, and it'll be more prison tasting. It wouldn't be anywhere near as professional or anything. It'd just be like you making prison wine, basically, because apparently they do that in prison. So yes. So moving on from that was like way too much info that had nothing to do with gaming whatsoever.
We're here to teach the listeners a variety of things, man. We talk about movies.
Yeah, we talk about a variety of things.
Talk about games, and now we're talking about how to make wine. So we'll come up with something else in the future at some point. We'll spiral. Can't help it.
Hit the like button if you like a little bit of a taste every now and then. Here's the funny part about this, because you ready for this? I don't even drink.
All right, I do.
That's the funny part, though. I was so into this. This is how boring my job was, technically. I was so into this, and I wanted to do this and try this, but I literally don't. I don't go out and buy drinks like that. I don't bring bottles back home. None of that. I don't even do that. I don't even do the cheap stuff. So yeah, that's probably you. So you would actually do this. Like you might do the prison wine kind just in the house as an experiment. But I don't even do this. You ain't gonna make your own.
No, I'm just gonna go buy it if I want it.
Somebody is gonna be like, "Can we please talk gaming?" So I will talk gaming with you. The very next thing
if you want to learn how to make it, there's a video game for it. There's also one for just brewing, I think beer, and there's one for coffee. So if you want to learn how to make these drinks, they're simulators.
Now, you know what? Because we're getting a lot into real life. I guess I will mention this. I am planning to buy a coffee grinder. It most likely is going to get bought tomorrow off of Amazon. I found one that was like in the $20 range where you just grind up some coffee real quick. I also saw somewhere where they were saying that if you grind coffee and a cinnamon stick or a piece of a cinnamon stick in it together, like that's supposed to help with it increases brain activity when you have cinnamon in coffee, like, and it's homemade stuff and it's not packed with a bunch of sugar and cream. So
I can tell you that coffee itself increases brain activity. Because I used to have about 7 cups a day. Now that's not safe. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But one of my jobs, it was like 3 of us, and we would just like consistently throughout the day, just brew and drink just so much coffee. And then I stopped, like cold turkey. Essentially, I just stopped drinking coffee completely. I didn't feel like making it.
I'm not interested in going to stand in line at the Starbucks. I've watched the Tim Hortons and Starbucks lines be wrapped around the building. I have no interest in that. Yeah. I wouldn't mind making it, and so I'm interested in getting that. I'm going to get that like very soon, probably tomorrow, like what I said. So, yeah.
Fun little side story. Sorry, but you just reminded me with the Starbucks thing. One of my times at Starbucks, and I went there, and I was just trying to get like iced coffee, like something simple, and the line was pretty empty. So I get to the front, and now there's like people behind me, and she's like, "What would you like?" And I was like, "Let me get a large iced coffee." So one already, they had to correct me on the like name of the sizes, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, the venti one." And then she started asking all this extra stuff, like for like extra like flavor shots or like other stuff that they do in the coffees. So she just lists off all this stuff and then just looks at me, and I like make eye contact with her, and like in the most worried voice, I just said, I just want iced coffee. And she smiles, like real cool with it. It was like, pick a flavor, and I said vanilla, and she was like, all right, got you. And then just like made it. But like I was like, I did not know what I was doing. And then I listened to the next person, and she said something like, it sounded like some like witch spell that she did. Like it was just this long, just it sounded like she was reading the ingredients like on the back of a like in the nutrition part of a food item. Like she was just saying stuff, and it was just like, you all of that, like that's weird. Just get coffee. But you stay on.
Yeah, well, coffee, I've heard of people doing all types of healthy stuff with coffee, whether it was like a coffee only kind of fasting thing, and then there's like the whole enema thing, which I ain't trying to do. But yeah, so let's move on from the coffees. I guess or that in general. But
back to gaming.
Yeah, back to gaming. So we're almost in the main event time, so hit the like button if you're still here. Thank you for watching. There's one thing I'm going to get to right before my big rant, which is our main event of this episode. Last of Us just released. It just released. I showed you a couple bugs. That's not really going to be the focus of this part, but with Last of Us, the biggest thing that I was looking at is that after everything everyone said, it really is just the same game. It looks like it got a little bit better visually. They did redo some of the animations on the facial expressions and some of the death animation expressions, or death animations, I guess. But outside of that, I mean, this is the same game. Of course it was going to be like, it's really just a visual upgrade. It's the most expensive visual upgrade that we're getting. Some of the AI is slightly better, but it's like they could have easily just added a higher difficulty mode to the other one. But yeah, maybe you could say, yeah, there's the accessibility stuff, but outside of that, I mean, it's the same game with just some minor tweaks. It's just some tweaks. I've seen the cutscenes. I've watched a lot of gameplay from various people. This is the same game. I recognize it because I beat it. I don't have anything bad to say about the original one, or I guess the PS4 remastered one, because that was the one I beat. But for this one, man, I can barely tell the difference. There's some lighting and graphical differences, but even with the behavior of some of the enemies, it's like you really have to turn the difficulty up to the max in order to really see the difference. And the only difference that you really, really see is that your position is being given up like right away almost. Like you can't hide or camp for a long time. They will come directly to you, despite not actually passing by you at all. They would just all of a sudden know your location. Like that's the biggest difference I've seen. Other than that, it's the same game. I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I knew it would be the same game, like we said before. That I didn't see a point for this being made.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't. The reason why I don't see a point for this being made is sometimes I argue like, yeah, you could go back and get a PS3, but to have it accessible on the PS4, PS5, or like the newer systems and things like that.
Yeah.
Like for any sort of game, it's great to have. This one was already accessible because they made a copy for the PS4. Therefore, this could play on the PS5. They didn't need to make another one as well. So the game already kind of felt pointless in my head. So then here's like, yeah, we're not going to add anything and we're going to charge full price. It's like, no.
Yeah, so
like,
the Factions multiplayer is still going to be sold separately. So that's coming at a later date. That was, I think we saw some of that footage with, I guess it's supposed to have a unique story on its own that's added to it. And so that's a thing. But yeah, there's not much else that's here. Their DLC is still a part of this, just like how in Remastered it was a part of it. I played the DLC. DLC was called Left Behind. Other than that, Ellie's face looks more like how she looked in Last of Us 2 when they did the flashbacks. And Joel is also similar as well. They did he looks like how he looked in Last of Us 2 in the flashbacks as well. But outside of that, it's like you almost plucked those versions of them into this game and then touched up the lighting and everything. It was a Skyrim mod. It's a Skyrim update, Skyrim mod, basically. That's kind of what it is. That's kind of what it is. But yeah, you're paying full price for it. I think eventually when the price starts to drop, that's not going to really matter as much anymore. As time goes on, I don't think people are going to like harp on that as much. I would not want them to delist the older one though. You know, even if you didn't have it on PS4 and you had it on PS5, but it wasn't the PS5 version, like they should not delist it. Because remember, that was like something Rockstar took heat for with the Grand Theft Auto trilogy because they delisted the other ones, and then this one came out, it was actually worse, and then they brought it back up because they got heat for it. But yeah, as long as they don't delist the other one, even if it might seem confusing for a second, it's like, let the people figure it out, because they'll be able to figure it out with a Google search. But yeah, don't delist the old ones. But I do think this was a strong contender for PS Plus Extra and Premium. Somebody said that it should have came on their day one. I'm like in almost 100% agreement on that. That would have definitely like made more sense there than a standalone pay. So I don't know.
I agree 100% with that.
So it is what it is. I think it's going to go there eventually, or they might give it away eventually. Other than that, I don't have anything else really to say on that. I think we talked enough about Last of Us in the past. Only thing I would say is overall, it's still a very fantastic game. The first one. The second one is when they screwed the story up. The first one, at least, you could say overall is really good. The second one, the gameplay is still very good. The story, I mean, eventually people are starting to let the story go and they still focus on the gameplay, and this gameplay is still fantastic on the second one. But this one is still worth playing. But I would say you can still go ahead and play the remastered PS4 version, because you know what's silly? It was still a part of the PS5 collection. I don't believe they took it away from it. And I remember them doing a patch update where you were able to load it in like under 30 seconds on that version. And that version actually ran at 60 frames as well. It just didn't have the dynamic lighting and facial features that this new one, the quote unquote part 1 version. But you still got the frame rate, you still had the gameplay, you still got the same story. So I don't know. If you really just need the visuals, Go for it. But it's going to be equivalent to if you watch the DVD quality of something versus Blu-ray quality of something. That's what the difference is going to be. So yeah. Any other words? Last words on Lasso?
Nah, just put it on the higher tiers. Put it on the higher tiers. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's late now, just throw it on there.
I think it will go next year. I think it will go there next year. But speaking of which, that goes into our next topic, which is PlayStation acquires a studio called Savage Games Studios, and they are known for their mobile games. And this is a mobile gaming studio, and I think they acquired them to make mobile games. They're not looking to change them, at least for right now. So, yes.
Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna have some mobile games. Any thought on that?
As long as I don't want too much focus to go on there. Like, they're gonna do it, whatever. What I'm hoping is that if they can, my hope is if they can get the monetization that they want from the mobile games, some of those monetization practices will be taken out of the main games, right? Where it's like maybe they won't go so heavy of making every game a live service because all the live service money that they want is already coming from the mobile games. Unfortunately, of course, all that's going to happen is just they'll just focus more on the mobile games because that's what's giving them more money. You can't have nice things. But the hope is that if they can put it there, it removes them from the main stuff.
This reminds me of their announcement a while back. It's actually a video I have that's unreleased too, that I might actually edit up and release for next week. But they announced that there was going to be this controller that's a mobile phone controller called the Backbone. They have their own version of it that's white and blue. And I think this is going to go along with that, because before they just announced that, and I guess you would look at it the same way as like maybe xCloud, where eventually you would stream games on your phone with that or whatever. But they might be going also in the direction of just making standalone phone-only games, and we know how PlayStation is. They might actually make some sort of exclusive game, exclusive to mobile or something, however they do it. You know, does Sony have phones? I don't think they have phones anymore, but if they did, that would be goofy if they tried something like that. Like, oh, you have to have a Sony cell phone in order to play this game. But yeah, so
it would be weird.
That would be weird. But yeah, so they have a cell phone controller called the Backbone, or they partner with Backbone. Backbone already was coming out with one that was black, and I paid attention to it because I actually have the Razer Kishi, and I really enjoy the Razer Kishi. It makes me feel like I have a whole nother like gaming device. But I guess the Backbone is also like the same kind of thing, but the one for PlayStation right now is for iPhone users only. So it's not on Android yet. But I imagine they'll do it eventually. And so, yeah, I guess, you know, eventually they'll have a studio game release from maybe Savage, and it will be a PlayStation mobile game that you can play with that little Backbone. So Sony making these other moves, I guess. I'm not mad at it because they still have their releases, you know, their regular game releases. Whether it's support or not, they still have their releases. Which leads into what's considered my final topic, which is our main event of the day, which I'm actually putting in the actual title of this show, which is actually going to be called My Xbox and Halo Rant. I'm going to go all over the place with this because coming off of this news that PlayStation acquired Savage Studios, we go into this news that the acquisition deal with Xbox and Activision like Activision Bungie, we find out
Uh-huh.
that it's being held up for the moment in the UK. And
Yep.
I found out also that one of their official statements in the UK was that they care about their UK gamers or something like that. It was something
Yep.
like that. It was very cringe to me. But I gotta fire back at this a little bit because this kind of annoys me a little bit over this, because I understand this is one of the bigger deals, period, but it still feels a little biased here because, like I just said, like 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, PlayStation does this deal and nobody bats an eye. And
well, they're getting sued.
Okay, they're getting sued. Okay, yes. So let me mention that too. They're getting sued for like the what was it that they were overcharging? They were overcharging.
There's no competition.
Right, but that's the thing too though, because that's with their own existing products, you know? But there's nobody stepping in to stop them from making purchases. And what's so crazy that kind of irks me right now, because like, I'm not even trying to sound like I'm about to be a fanboy for Xbox. It's just, here's the thing that kind of annoys me. They announced that they're doing this acquisition deal with Activision and Blizzard, and then the world just goes crazy for a moment. But meanwhile, PlayStation on the other end, this is like acquisition number 4 or 5, if anybody's been paying attention, and nobody bats an eye. It doesn't take that long. It just goes right through. For example, Bungie has Destiny. Destiny was like the successor to Halo, technically, right? To an extent. Right? It just goes right through. That's just it. It was announced afterwards, and it goes right on through. Fast. And then right before that, what was it? Housemarque? Right? You remember that name? Housemarque? And then Blue Point was the other one. So these were the ones who did Demon Souls Remake and Returnal. Right? They just buy them. Goes right on through. It's also rumored and heavily expected for them to just buy Square Enix. And I have a feeling that if we get that announcement that something like that happens, like there's no governmental entity, there's nobody nowhere is stopping any of these other deals. So I'm like, what is the deal with Call of Duty? Because it really comes down to Call of Duty. Almost everything else over there is like half dead. We haven't seen it in years, or it comes out every now and then. But it just comes down to Call of Duty. And then if I have this argument with people off YouTube, not on YouTube, but anybody who wants to fanboy with me and talk about, oh, Call of Duty is not that big of a deal, and all these other games, X, Y, and Z is a bigger deal. Well, it seemed to not be the same case when it comes to PlayStation. Because even with the news that came straight out of like Brazil or whatever, PlayStation is very worried about this Call of Duty deal. And rightfully so, Call of Duty does earn a lot of money for them. But at the same time, nobody's stopping them from doing anything else. They could just do it. And like, I know it might sound like a fanboy thing, but where was the people to stop them? Literally just like, what was it, a week ago, from raising the PS5 price everywhere except for the US? Yeah. Where are the trade there? Nobody says anything. No politicians got something to say about everything else when it comes to gaming. And you ever notice the politicians, when they try to get you to vote for them, I don't want to make this political, but they'll talk about how they're going to save you money and raise the money on like how much money you will make or whatever, right? But here's a perfect example. If you got something to say about gaming, here's a perfect example. When Meta raises the price of the Oculus, or PlayStation raises the price of the PS5, where are the politicians? Where is the news? Where is anybody to say, you can't do that? You know what I mean? They just do
Uh-huh.
it. They just raise the price. And we hear about it, and that's just it. And the excuse is inflation, which is the excuse now for a lot of things. But I got to keep this really vague so we can keep this episode. But at the same time, I just feel like, okay, you got one acquisition compared to the rest. Like, yes, they did do Bethesda, Elder Scrolls, Starfield, all of that. But it's like right after that, like there was never any stopping of them doing that. Those other acquisitions. Nobody told Nintendo they can't charge an extra $50 for their OLED screen. Nobody said anything to anybody else. And I'm sitting over here like, yo, is Microsoft the devil? Like, are they really the devil? Like, I understand, like, people, like, they are hated. And I'm just like, let them do their deal. If it ain't that big of a deal, if these exclusives and everything are so much better, you know, if they're so much more higher quality, then Call of Duty shouldn't even matter. How is this such a big deal that, because one of the reports that came from the Brazil location and stuff, that they was talking about how it was going to be years before they can compete with Game Pass. That was a thing that they said. And to me, I looked at it as disrespect to their own first party studio. You got God of War coming around the corner. You just had Horizon come out earlier this year. And you're sitting here complaining about Call of Duty, and you saying you don't have anything to compete with them for years. That, to me, that's disrespectful to Call of Duty. Or not Call of Duty, God of War.
Yeah.
That's disrespectful to Gran Turismo, despite what type of state it was in. That's disrespectful to Ratchet and Clank. That's disrespectful to Returnal. You know what I'm saying? It's disrespectful to all of them, if that's the case. But, you know, nobody's stopping them from doing any of this stuff. And I'm like, how is Xbox that big of a, like, that big bad company when all the other companies do the same things? Like, they don't own Forspoken, right? They don't own the studio. They paid to have Forspoken off of Xbox, essentially, for I think 2 years. For 2 years, nobody stopped that. And then I guess there was a report that Xbox was accusing PlayStation of trying to block games from going to Game Pass. Of course they're doing that. We can already know that, basically, just based off behavior. But I think it was confirmed with Resident Evil 8, because they had like marketing rights to Resident Evil 8. And I think the reports of the contract or whatever came out, and basically it was like Resident Evil 8 can't go to Game Pass. That's our deal. It's just like, what? Like these type of things. And so, like, none of that is considered unfair trade practice. None of it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, you know, with people trying to stop it and this is anti-competition, I'm like, well, like, everything that PlayStation has done, period, has been anti-competition. Spider-Man is anti-competition. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
So I feel some type of way about it because I'm actually just more annoyed about it than anything. Because in real life, I have both systems, but it starts to annoy me when I see something like this happens. Like, if I was to use the best example I can use, if you ever look at the NBA Finals or the Super Bowl or something, usually when it really comes down to it, it always ends up being some questionable call from a ref that will throw curveballs and everything. And it always seems a little bit political in nature as well, where like the ref is on this side or the ref is on that side. I've seen that so many years in a row. And it's like, this is how that feels to me. It feels like the trade commission is the referee and they're interfering in the match, basically. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'd rather see that. If I'm going to watch a console war happen, like, I want to see it happen. But if you're showing me like it's being blocked temporarily or however long it takes, and it's not even that PlayStation is just like so firing off all cylinders that it didn't even matter. It's like, no, they're stopping them from doing their business basically.
Right.
While the competition is free to just do it. The competition is doing it on their scale that they're doing it on. They don't have as much money as Microsoft right now, but if they did, they would do the same thing. And on top of that too, like, Embracer Group, like, nobody bat an eye against Embracer Group, and they had just like, there was like a report that they took like a whole bunch of them at the same time, a whole bunch of studios. I don't know if we covered it, but that was like a thing like a few weeks ago, and I'm like, there was no talks that was a monopoly either. And it's just like, when it's Microsoft is bad, when everybody else do it, it doesn't matter. And I'm just like, let them do this deal so we could just get on with it. Because I'm kind of sick of talking about the Activision deal as it is. But the company, even PlayStation, was crying about this basically in some of these official reports more than a fanboy. And I'm just like, yo, Call of Duty must really be a different type of beast. But you just
makes a lot of money.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, but you still got your games. You still got them. You still got your games, and you just bought a shooter studio. And you have shooter names that you could bring back. Resistance, Killzone. You have SOCOM. You could bring some of these back. Like, bring one back. Everybody does World War I and II content when they talk about shooters. Like, what else was you gonna do? It was gonna be more missions around the same wars. What else was you gonna do? Like, anybody could have did it. I was like, what is the difference here? Left trigger is the aim, right trigger is the shoot, square is the reload, the triangle is the switch weapons, and then you do some cutscenes. Is it really that hard? Like, it's starting to annoy me a little bit, bro. Is it really that hard? We're talking about a shooter. Like, the button layout is exactly the same across now at this point. What is the difference here? Like,
people play Call of Duty. That's the only difference.
Because even with Call of Duty, there is no Nathan Drake. You know what I mean? There is no Joel.
Right.
It's not an Ellie. It's not an Abby, an Aloy. You're like, what are we obsessed over? Is what I'm saying.
So I mean, it's just, you got to ask like a Call of Duty player, because like, so a lot of them have like some of the same mechanics, and before it was like Call of Duty versus Battlefield, where Call of Duty would slightly win, but it was Call of Duty versus Battlefield. But then Battlefield with their last one kind of messed up, and everyone just stayed with Call of Duty. But it has a stranglehold over like the market. Like, if you think of battle royale first person shooter, most people are gonna think Call of Duty. There's people who the only games they get each year, I know, the only games they get each year is 2K, NBA 2K, and Call of Duty, and that's all they play. So Call of Duty, for whatever reason, it makes a lot of money. Now, I'll say it that like PlayStation should have more confidence in some of their titles and put in the work for their titles to make them that compelling, that they shouldn't have to worry about something like this. Like, you should be able to comfortably say like, oh, they took Call of Duty, that's fine, we got God of War. Like, you should be able to say that. But the fact that you're this scared over that game is bad. And it's like, to me, it just shows you need to put more resources in. Like, if you're gonna just have a stranglehold, as much as I'm a PlayStation person, if you are gonna sit here and try and have your exclusives, and that's what you brag about, is like, you need this system to play these games, then you need to have the top-notch version of every type to bring people in. You should have your own battle royal game that it's like, you can only play it on PlayStation, and you need to come here to get it if you want to be that way. Or stop trying to have a stranglehold over everything and deal with it. I'm
not too mad at PlayStation overall, because they're almost playing their role they have to play. I'm more mad at the people who are calling themselves like regulating everything. Because to me, there's no regulation when PlayStation does it. There's no regulation when Nintendo charges you like $50-$60 for their Nintendo 64 controller, and you gotta have the extra pack like online thing in order to even get access to buy one or stuff. There's no stranglehold, or there's no like, what am I trying to say? There's nobody's saying anything about how they work their own platforms, you know? Like nobody's stepping in for any of that, and they still acquire whoever they want to acquire. Same thing goes with Embracer Group. But at the same time, it looks a little funny to me when PlayStation is able to do like 4 or 5 of them. Even if they were at a smaller scale, it still adds up. You know what I'm saying? Like if you only did like I think Bungie's was like a few million or few billion, I think. Right? But then there was like all the other ones. It was there's one other one that I didn't even mention, because I know I said Blue Point, Housemarque, this new one that's Savage, and then there's Bungie, but there was a 5th one. I can't even think of it right now. I think it starts with an E. But you're able to do all of these. Like, that stuff still adds up. Like, when you put the money together, you didn't do like 60 billion, but you probably did like 10. You know what I mean? You probably did some money, and you still took companies that I'm pretty much understood that they're not going to share, with the exception of Bungie with Destiny. Destiny, for whatever reason, that deal, they're able to still do whatever they want. But for the other ones, I don't expect this Savage game to end up on xCloud through my cell phone through an xCloud. You know what I mean? I don't expect that at all. And they're able to just do it. And I'm just like, yeah, Call of Duty is probably bigger than all the other ones combined, but still, it's like, if somebody's going to step in for one, I think that it's fair to step in for all of them, or don't step in for any of them. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
And then when are we stepping? You only stepping in when it comes to like, is it fair for the companies? Where are people stepping in when they talk about fair for the consumer? Because nobody stepped in when they raised the price on the systems, on the headset.
They don't care about it.
Yeah, or who stepped in when they said, okay, let's make it $70 games instead of 60? You know, nobody stepped in there. Nobody stepped in when they announced they're going to start doing more live service games. Nobody stepped in for NFTs. They're all just here. Yeah, and I think that's trash. So, yeah, I have a few short words for that, you know, because I don't really like how that looks. Because overall, all I was always saying was, no matter how much everybody cannibalizes each other, as long as I can still get the product I want, and I don't pay more than what I've been paying this entire time, that's all I care about. The second y'all start trying to raise prices on stuff, and what you're telling me is because y'all combined, I'm like, what that got to do with me? I bought both of y'all products regardless. You know, I already consolidated y'all. Y'all didn't have to do the consolidating. I bought both products and put them in my house. It consolidated for me. And that's how I look at it. So I wouldn't want to have them consolidate at all if the whole idea is to raise the price. Because I could fire back at Xbox too. If Xbox is only doing this just to raise the price of Game Pass, don't do it. Because now you're telling your consumer to pay more when the consumer could have just bought Call of Duty and then continued to have Game Pass and didn't pay more. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I know people was always alluding to that. It's almost like expected, or people are just wanting it almost in a weird way. And it's just like, to me, I don't see the value in raising the price of Game Pass or raising the price of your games simply because you bought them. It's like, you could have just not did that. You know, like I said, it's like, as long as I don't have to pay more, I'm down with whatever y'all doing. But the second y'all all of a sudden deciding to raise your price because you combine, it's like no. Like no. No. I still want to pay the same amount. I do also did you want to say anything else on that? Because I do also want to move on to Halo. But yeah.
No, we can move on.
I just don't think that is fair. That's my whole thing. It doesn't sound like a, because they're calling it anti-cheat or whatever it is, anti-consumer or anti-business, anti-whatever. It just doesn't seem like the same energy is being shown on every other group that's still spending money, literally in the same time frame, like after that deal was done. And I expect Sony, if they have it, to still spend more money, even after this deal is still being frozen, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's all I have to say for that. Now, for Halo, if anybody wants to say Halo is dead because it's lacking content, I'm right there with you. I can understand that. As much as it would suck to say that, I can understand that. I don't really want any game to be considered dead. But I can accept that if it's lacking maps and it's lacking modes, I'm right there with you. But I kind of have to push back on that couch co-op thing. It sounds so silly to me. I can understand some people being upset, and they definitely want to have their father-son time, family time. I was right there with everybody else, especially in Thanksgiving. But for me, this type of mode only exists really during Thanksgiving, before the food comes out, Christmas time, that type of thing, when you're actually with family. I find it really hard to believe that all these YouTubers are like, okay, Halo is dead simply because of couch co-op, when we already know you're not having people in your house. Go ahead.
That's the thing, though. But you don't live with another gamer, right? Imagine the households that have one system, right? They only have one system and two kids, right? And so all their things, they always got to take turns. Whereas they could have couch co-opted Halo and both play, but now they can't because they still only have one system, so now they still have to sit there and take turns, right? We are blessed. Like, I don't live with anybody else. So if I want to play a game, I can play what I want. I don't have to consider somebody else's like feelings. With those houses that have multiple kids and one system, or they'll have like a game room and like this just, but it's like multiple people trying to play. Yeah, they can no longer play together. And I know people like that, where it's like there's one system because they're not out here just buying a bunch of systems. They're different from me, so they're not trying to buy a bunch of systems. Yeah. So they got the one, and they still, it's like a bar. Like, I've had people who they don't own a system, and like they'll play through games like Elden Ring and things, and it's like, oh yeah, I borrowed the system from my brother, because it's like only one of them really owns it, and it's like they still can't play together. Now, I don't think there's a lot. Personally, I don't think there's a lot of people like that. I know of some people that were looking for the split screen co-op. Again, I don't know, like a lot of people like that. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, Halo's dead. I can understand some backlash or outcry. Yeah. I have my own different issue with it. My issue is don't make promises and then cancel on them. Right? Like,
I can agree with that.
If you promise, like, and it's just a slight different phrasing where it's just like, hey, we understand people want a split screen co-op, so while we're putting in these other things in the game, we're going to see about that. Versus this will be in the game, hands down, and then it's not. And you're just like, sorry, we can't do it anymore. And it's the fact that they can't do it because they're focusing on the live service elements. That's the reasoning, is that they're focused. All of the focus is going towards the give us more money part. Like, when I hear live service, all I hear is the give us more money part. So it upsets me where it's we're going to put all of our attention on the give us more money part. Sorry, we can't give you this part that we can't monetize on. Right? Because I guarantee if there was some monetization in that split screen somehow, they would work on it. but it's like, we're not going to work on this part. We're going to work on the thing that brings us more money. And that's what bothers me. Other than that, I don't really care.
I could be right there with you. If we talking about like they promise content and then all of a sudden it's removed, I'm right there with you on that. I just don't believe the outrage when people take it to the point where it's like now everybody's making a Halo is dead video, and when you say Halo is dead, and then you mention couch co-op, here's the issue that I have with it too. Also, because what I'm being told all the time is like people don't buy Xbox no more; they all buy PCs. And then in my head, I'm like, who is playing couch co-op on a PC? That's all I'm trying to... Because I'm like, what are you doing? You got 2 keyboards next to each other and 2 mouses next to each other and y'all in front of a 30-screen monitor? A 30-inch monitor?
Good.
Is this what we doing? Like...
One on keyboard, one on control.
One on keyboard and one on control. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm like, this don't even sound right. Like who is couch co-oping in front of a PC? Because this is coming from the same crowd who's like, I would play Xbox on the Xbox, I play it on a PC. And then next thing you know, it's dead. Why is it dead? Because there's no couch co-op. Like, some don't add up here. When I watch some of these vids, I'm like, it don't add up here. Because how is you playing couch co-op on the PC? Like, and then some of the bigger channels where you clearly could tell they're not even really into it at all. They just need content. It's like, you really sitting here telling me. So I had, like, that's my issue is when it comes from the community when it comes to this particular part. I'm right there with you when you say it's lacking content. I am right there with you. I understand that. It never should have been released in pieces. No game should be released in pieces. But don't tell me you going back and forth over no couch co-op. Like, I can't believe you on that. Because when is the last time y'all done played couch co-op? Like, every game technically should have couch co-op. Who is checking for couch co-op? That's okay. Now I know you're going to tell me exactly what you just said. It's just for me, when I hear that, I'm like, couch co-op? Like, what year is it? Like, it ain't 2004. Like, what?
I don't think it's a majority thing. I think there are there's a chunk, but nothing like a majority. I don't think it's that big of an issue that it's on here. So I'm like, well, the game's canceled. Might as well go get your money back. I don't think it's there, and I don't think anyone bought this under the pretense of I can't wait for the couch co-op.
This is the part
I just think they're probably looking forward to it. That's all.
This is the part that's probably going to get me canceled too. It reminds me of the outrage when people was going on and on about how you would need to have internet just to play your game. And in order to complain about that, you would need to have internet in order to complain. You would need to have internet in order to download it anyway, especially if you was game sharing. So, like, what is we talking about here? Half of you, and you needed to have internet just to do your job. You needed to have internet just to do your schoolwork. Like, what are we talking about here?
I will argue for that one, too, in saying for the people who live in, like, kind of farmy sort of areas where there's, like, barely any signal. And I've been in those areas. So I've had friends that just straight up lived in the area, and I live in the city. And it's just like they still live in the city. It's not like I'm driving into the middle of nowhere, but straight up it's just like cell reception and everything's slow and everything's bad. So it's just like for them, if they already have to like pretty much turn on the game and wait 2 days for it to download just to not be able to also play it because you need a good internet connection and you can't. And I also get real frustrated when playing like Fall Guys and someone on my squad gets dropped out because I know their internet connection's bad. That's like super upsetting to me, where you could just see it and they'll just like disappear. So there is that where it's just like if you have to wait so long to download it, but then you can't play. Or for these days that we've been recently having, didn't DT and everything, like the electric company, didn't people with powder outages and everything?
Yes, I've experienced it myself a few times.
Yep. So then if there's a power outage and now you can't play any games because it requires you to be online and you can't have internet at that moment.
But even
that would be
so,
but you ain't got power, so you can't turn it on.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, well, yeah, you ain't got food either. You came, your refrigerator's gone.
I've been in situations where my internet has just went out. Like, so for example, I had an issue. There was a wire issue outside, and it was a whole thing with calling. And like over the weekend, you barely get any good like people. So it's like Saturday morning and I'm calling and they're just like, all right, so here's what we'll do is we'll reset your router and you're good to go. And I'm like, that's not the problem. Like, I'm not technologically an idiot. Like, I understand how things work and I know how to reset, turn on, turn off, and make sure things are plugged in. I can even change internal settings. This is literally a wire issue that you need to handle. And they're like, we'll reset the power and hopefully that's good, and then hung up on me. And they did this for the entire weekend. So I didn't have internet until Monday morning when I called and I explained the situation. And that lady went, oh, there seems to be an issue. We'll send somebody out there. The guy comes out, checks something inside and goes, oh, it's a wire issue outside. And I'm like, I've been saying that since Saturday morning. So then I just couldn't play any games for the entire weekend if I can't be online. Like, that's the issue, that I would have to go do other stuff. Now, again, it's not happening so much that this should be a major issue, but I can see where people would get upset.
Yeah, so I can also see where people can get upset. It's just, it also just annoys me because it's amplified through the YouTubers who have who need to have the internet just to report the story, first of all, on one side. And then on the other side, some of the ones who are complaining about some of these things, what they don't realize is that the viewer has also seen them do multiple different reviews on multiple different products, like, for example, PCs and Xboxes. So when you try to tell me you don't have enough units, you the YouTuber, you don't have enough units that you wanted to at least do couch co-op, how you ain't got it no more when you had all the review copies of everything and you claim you purchased more than one system? Like, that's the thing that annoys me when I see people report that, and it's like, do you realize you've already also shown your audience that not only have you bought the X, you bought the S, and you have a PC? So y'all could be in different rooms for all that matters. It's like, that's the thing. And for me, when I see it come, because it's coming from the YouTuber base where I know for a fact they have all three. There's this one girl I follow, I'm not going to mention her name. She has a Series S, Series X, and a PC with a 3060 Ti, one of the newer graphics cards. And then she reports that Halo is dead because of not having couch co-op. And I'm like, my homie, you got all three. Like, go put them in the other room and y'all can still have y'all slumber party, and you don't even have to be on the headset. You can yell, or you can put all the TVs in the same room, just like how they used to do the landline hookups for Halo back in the day. I'm like, and so now it's really starting to irk me. Like, is this coming from the same crowd that used to play Halo 1 and y'all all bought TVs to each other's house? Is this coming from the same crowd? You bought TVs from each other's house and had what was called a landline party. And now we're talking about couch co-op is what killed it? When that's what you did with Halo 1? Like, this is coming from the same crew. That's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Like you be talking about TVs. You ever see those old documentary style stuff and everything where it was like a TV's on one side and a TV, almost like if you was in a computer room, but it was TVs and a bunch of musty people, right? And they're all in this room and they're having like up to 16 people playing, right? And they have it all like hooked up to each other. I think you could have done it with GameCube as well, if I'm not mistaken, with Smash and Mario Kart. I think it was Mario Kart. But you would have to have TVs in more than one system. you know? So that's all I'm saying, because it's coming from the same group that supposedly played that back in the day. So that's why I'm just like, okay. Because we could pick on Microsoft for certain things. I will be one of the first ones to say it is unacceptable that they didn't have a first party game this year. At least one. It did look funny. Yeah. They never should have relied on Halo to launch as a one single game, to be the Game Pass game to launch with Series X and S all at one time. That's too much pressure for one studio. You would have been better off. Like, I still appreciate that Gears of War 5 Hive Busters was a part of Gears of War 5 and their ray tracing update and everything. I appreciate that over them releasing it as a director's cut or a remaster, or however you want to call it. But at the same time, there still should have been a title that was coveted by them for the next gen system every year, despite Bethesda. Because you just bought Bethesda right before your launch. What was the game that was going to release in 2022? Have you not have bought Bethesda with Redfield and Starfield back in 2020? Yeah. That would have been my. So I can keep it right down the middle, because that is technically unacceptable, because their momentum was stronger than ever. And you can argue it was cut by their own hand because they could not get out a title within a certain time period. Because wherever Halo was lacking would not have been that bad if we still had Starfield this November and Redfall this summer, like how it was previously supposed to be coming out. Redfall will be out right now. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
How is Deathloop ending up on the PlayStation Extra and not on Game Pass? And it's not 100% a full year yet. But how did this happen? Microsoft, I can ask that kind of question. And that still annoys me a little bit, because remember, there's still nobody regulating anything saying that's not fair. But still, it'll look fishy. Yeah. So the way I look at it is, well, Ghostwire Tokyo going to be the same way. It's not going to hit Game Pass first. It's going to hit PlayStation Extra first. That type of thing don't matter that much to me personally. It's just when I look at it and I look at how people are treating Xbox. Now, don't get me wrong. Xbox is not innocent, and Xbox is not a little child either. Microsoft is not a child. They're still an old company like any other company that was started by Mr. Gates, who can be just as vicious in the business world as anybody else. I just don't think that is really fair. It doesn't look like it's fair. It doesn't look like it's straight down the middle to me. But Xbox should have more titles this year. Now, next year, they have those two Bethesda titles. They have a few other titles that's going to be coming out. There's a lot of things I could list a whole thing of Xbox titles that I'm looking forward to that I want to play. So they got to do something. You can't buy 50 something. You're talking about people on an everyday basis. Anybody who listening to this, hit the like button, but you go 40 hours a week somewhere, right? What do you do for 40 hours a week at an Xbox studio per, somebody's got to be doing something. I'm not trying to seem out of line and disrespectful at all, because I firsthand know how hard coding can be. But all I'm saying is, like, next year, they definitely have to have more than just Starfield and Redfall. There has to be a third and fourth title. Because how do you have all these companies doing these things? Like, what are they doing on a daily basis? I don't agree with, there was a person who was famous who mentioned that Phil Spencer needs like a mental health evaluation and all that stuff. He took it way too far. I was like, no, he don't need all of that. It's like, there's nothing wrong with Phil Spencer's mental health. Maybe the people just couldn't get out in a timely manner, but they still need to produce something. I don't care if it's Bunny Raiders. Somebody cook up something. Something just needs to pop out from the first party studio. Like, I can't count Song of Iron, and I can't count that Toy Story shooter either, because that's not their first party titles. That's probably somebody who is secondary, just like Tunic, just like a few other ones I can't think of right now. But the games that come out where they go to Xbox first, As Dust Falls, you know, some of these other ones that are going there first, it's not necessarily their first party. It's just they're releasing their game day one on Game Pass. But it's like for the ones where you can't get it nowhere else but an Xbox ecosystem, you're producing something. Something has to happen. Something has to come up. You know, even with Redfall and Starfield, I don't need that to be only coming out in the summertime. One of those got to come out quicker. Like, it can't be late summer for one and then late Christmas for the other. Like, the first half of next year, something has to come out. It ain't even got to be that good. It can be something like, what was that? The Gunk, I think is what it was called. That got super cannibalized because it came out at the same time as Halo and Forza, which I questioned that. I was like, why did you put that little game out right next to those two juggernauts? That could have came out this year, and as ugly as it probably looked to a lot of people, no offense, it looked ugly to me. Like, that still could have been the game for this year, at least. So I'm saying you got to start producing something. Because if you really sat down and looked at this list, I mean, it's starting to look like a long list for nothing to have a release date. Elden Scrolls 6, Fable, Hellblade 2, Avowed, right? Technically, Redfall and Starfield doesn't have a definitive release date either. It's just supposed to be next year, right? But then on top of that, Bethesda Studios got like 4-5 studios underneath itself. Activision's got like everything apparently. Crash, Spyro, 1,000 different Call of Duty variations with all their microtransactions. I don't care if you come out with a console version of Candy Crush, something has to come out, basically.
Yeah.
Something has to come out. And so the pressure is on them a little bit more, just under first party. I think that is being treated, I think they are definitely being treated unfairly when it comes to their next acquisition. But at the same time, I can understand the criticism for whoever they already 100% purchased, because there's still a lot of different studios there. And we haven't actually seen a roadmap where if this gets pushed back, it's okay because we can just push this one out instead. It doesn't look like that. It looks like this is pushed back, so that's just it. And that's the problem over there. There's not a substitution. Their games should be looking like Pokemon on the bench, basically. I can't beat the trainer with this, so I'll swap him out with that one. Which is the same thing as like, okay, right now the product is not, this is not being pushed, or this trend is not being pushed, or I'll push this game out first. And I'll hold that one out for a while. Like, it's not, it doesn't look like that. It looks like, okay, we're just going to push it all back. We don't have anything in the meantime. In the meantime, we'll throw something in Game Pass from third party. Unfortunately, when it's third party stuff going in Game Pass, people don't look at it that way because they can still get it somewhere else. That's the only thing. So it's like, it's weird that that's the thing, because it almost seems anti-consumer in itself. It's like, wouldn't you want to have something more available everywhere for just for your own way of gaming? You know, like Resident Evil 7, you can play that everywhere, and then you could play it in VR. You know what I mean? It's like if you was only on one system, then you couldn't play it in VR. You couldn't play it at a higher frame rate. You know, you can't mod it. You can. It's one of those kind of things. So it's one of those weird things in gaming. All I can say is they have to produce something. They have to produce something is what I'm saying. The way their deals are being handled, I think, is unfair. And I don't believe the hype around Halo being dead over co-op. That's my whole rant for this.
Yeah.
We somehow made it to 2 hours, so hit the like button anyway, because we technically do have one last thing here that we could talk about real quick. That was just basically We both saw the Winnie the Pooh horror movie trailer. And I guess I'll end with this and get off of the other stuff. Because I'm actually a little confused by this. Because if I'm understanding correctly, they're allowed to use that trademark's name, and it doesn't interfere with like the actual thing for the children's show series, whatever. And they're
so when you copyright, when you trademark something, there's a time that is trademarked for. Then you have to redo the trademark. That's why if you'll notice on certain websites, it'll say like copyrighted 2020 because they had to re-up the copyright on it. Well, whoever owns Winnie the Pooh did not re-up the copyright on it. And what happens is for literary work, usually for like famous literary works or literary characters, this tends to happen a lot. Where like after years, like many years, they tend to go on what's called the public domain. So what that would typically mean is, let's say I was writing a book and everything, I can use Winnie the Pooh or things like that. Like I can use those characters, or like Wizard of Oz, or something like that. They could not like write a book about them. What I mean is like if I'm writing a book and I wanted to like, when I describe what the person was doing, and it's like a parent and a child, and it's like, so the parent goes and grabs a Winnie the Pooh book to read. I can do that without having to pay people because I'm using their personal product in mine, right? Does that make sense? Or if like we were filming like a movie or something like that, I can have a library with like Winnie the Pooh books, or just straight up read Winnie the Pooh for one of the characters because it's considered a public domain. It's a character that everyone's allowed to use. It's why like every show gets to pretty much use Dracula without having to pay somebody for creating Dracula, because it's a public domain character. It belongs to everybody. So after a long time, characters tend to become public domain. So I could do that, but I can't use Iron Man without paying Disney for using their character, or paying Marvel for using their character. Well, Winnie the Pooh entered the public domain, and somebody immediately was like, all right, let's make a horror movie. So they took the Winnie the Pooh characters and decided to make a horror movie out of it. Blood and Honey. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
It's so strange. Who owned it before? Do you know?
No, but I can find out.
Well, why you probably looked that up? I was just wondering, like, why wouldn't they renew it? Like, I thought that was something that was more ongoing for kids. Maybe they just didn't have as many TV show episodes that was still going. Maybe it was done. Isn't that Disney though? It almost seems like it's Disney. It just feels like it would be Disney. Maybe it's
it was
not.
made by A. Milne. He was an author.
Okay.
Who passed away in 56, January of 1956.
So he's definitely rolling over right now, but okay.
Yeah, but like the this character then was created in 1926, right? So it was like all that time, like you would have to pay. No, you would have to pay their family or things like that in order to use this character. Okay. But then it's just natural for like very famous literary characters to just go into public domain. After a while, it just means, other people can reference it without having to pay somebody. Because, like, it's now at this point, everybody knows who it is. And things like that. So, I don't think it was necessarily I don't think it was like an accident where it was like, we forgot to renew. I think it was just natural, like, all right, it's reserved for all of this time and now not anymore. So, it would have been copyrighted for almost 100 years, I guess. Because it first appeared in 1924 as Edward Bear, and then became Winnie the Pooh in 1926, and then it went into public domain in like 2020.
Oh wow! I'm surprised. So like once it goes public, nobody can snatch it back up. Nobody caught wind of this and tried to snatch it back up. Nothing, huh? They just
you can't like I don't think you can just re-own it. I think it's just now anyone's allowed to use it.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Okay. There's music gets that way sometimes. Like there's like royalty free
I've heard of random people just like owning like they'll start owning publishing rights to other people's music randomly just because they had the money to pay for it and the artist didn't.
Yes. Yep, so you could do that. But like, for example, I think Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is in public domain. So like anyone can just use it or reference it in their own literary work. It's fine. You don't have to like get permission to do it. It's not necessarily always a pay. It's just like a permission to like use. You don't need to get permission to use Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. But technically speaking, the Happy Birthday song is technically owned. So like I think you have to pay. I think it's Disney that you have to pay. That's why companies, when they do like their little like it's your birthday and like do a song like to serve people, they never just walk out happy birthday and then keep going.
I'm just surprised that somebody like Disney didn't own Winnie the Pooh. It just felt like that was something that was Disney related.
They just let it go. Oh no, wait! In 1961, Walt Disney Productions licensed certain films and other rights. So they licensed it, but it was still owned by A.A. Milne.
Okay. Well, you know what? I would say...
sorry, real quick. It was Disney's exclusive from 1966 to 2021. And the UK copyright will expire in 2027. But the use of this character, it expired in 2021. So then it entered the public domain in the United States, and Disney no longer holds exclusive rights to it. So it was in 2021. Yep.
Well, I am gonna watch this when it comes out, or eventually after it comes out. I am interested in it. It does kind of seem like it's a little bit more of a meme comedy-ish hacker slasher.
Yeah.
Which would be like for jokes. But I will say, if this comes out and then next thing you know, the real Winnie the Pooh series doesn't take a hit whatsoever, I want to see more of this. I want to see the creepypastas. You know, all those creepypasta channels and stuff. I want to see all of those get turned into movies. They have like a dark, twisted thing about almost every cartoon. So I would like to see that happen with a lot more of those shows. Even if they are owned, maybe they can license it out to somebody to do horror movie spinoffs of every last one of them. Because they didn't have something to say about Pokemon, about SpongeBob, Hey Arnold. Like, it was a few of them. It's just like so many dark things. If you go and look at some of these other shows, and these are supposed to be nice, happy shows, and you know, like Ash Ketchum is like in a coma and all this other stuff. I'm like, well, somebody can make this stuff. Like, let them make it. Let them do it. It could be like the movie The Purge, but in real life, like once a year, we just show this alternative to one of the franchises. So, yeah, I would like to say that. Yeah. Other than that, I think we are at the end of this show. There's one other thing that I want to address that I will go in much more detail in the next episode, which is about, for anybody who's been following and has been listening this long, you would know typically towards the very end, I would mention something about Power Rangers. We're going to go in a lot more detail about Power Rangers next episode, but I was supposed to receive a Megazord that's called the Zord Ascension Project, and I was just going to give you some impressions on that. It was set to come out around this time, but it was pushed back. I'm not supposed to see it get shipped out until September 15th. So I might give impressions in the next, like not next week, but probably 2 weeks from now. You'll probably get an impressions on me if I think it's worth it, or if you should just go with that $40 version. I might actually go open that up. And other than that, yeah, that's it for this episode. We did somehow go over 2 hours. We're actually going close to 2 hours and 10 minutes, so we can go ahead and stop this. So hit the like button. Is there any other last words for you? Hello? Still there? Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm still here. Yeah, usually I do have last words. You know what? My last words is try out those simulator games and learn a new skill. Yeah,
learn about, there's a few of them too. You could actually learn how to build a PC. It's funny because that's a game on PC, right? It reminds me of like you need scissors to open this pack that has scissors in it. You remember that? It's like you need scissors to open this up. So it's like that's that one. But then there's also car simulator or car like you get to work on car simulator. I'm not sure how much I would want to trust that in real life though. Like, don't think you just made an image. You put an engine in on your like computer. Like you put an engine in on the game like a whole bunch of times, then all of a sudden you think you could just put an engine into a car. I don't think it's going to work that way. But they do have that simulator, and then they have like all these other ones too. But yeah, and then there's wine making simulator. So I might actually fire that one up. I'm going to go back and check to see what the size is on it and add it on. But yeah, that's all I got for this episode. Hit the like button on your way out. And don't forget to wash the back of your ears.